Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. So a few days ago I put a little poll on my Instagram asking if people would prefer to see how I edited my Instagram pictures or my go-to glam makeup, and it was really close, but editing the Instagram pictures did win. So over the past year or so I have had quite a few DMs asking how I edit them, what filters I use, what apps I use. So I thought I'd do a video just because it was easier to show everyone. And just a little disclaimer, I know Instagram is not that deep and there's a lot of people that probably just put a filter on and post the photo straight away or don't even put a filter on. So if you're one of those people, this video is probably not for you, but personally I really enjoy editing photos and I like to do a lot of stuff to them to make them look better. So if you want to see what I do, then just keep on watching. So before I get into how I edit the pictures, I thought I'd just give you a few tips on taking good pictures, because sometimes it's really hard to edit a bad picture to look good, but I do have a few tips on how to salvage if they're a little bit dodgy, so I will show you those as well. So my first tip is to always use your back camera on your phone or an actual camera, because the quality is just so much better. If you use the front camera or the Snapchat camera, which is even worse, the photos tend to be really grainy and pixelated, and in my opinion they just don't look as nice. So always try to get the best quality photo. Lighting is another big thing. Natural lighting is the best. Obviously if you've got a ring light or whatever, that's amazing. I wish I had one of those, but if you've got to deal with natural lighting, golden hour obviously is the best time, so sunset and sunrise, your pictures will just look so much better. Or if it's through the day, through a window is good. So you always want to have the light shining onto you rather than being behind you, because if it's on you it will light up your face, you'll be able to see a lot more, whereas if it's behind you you'll probably just look like a shadow and it is a lot harder to edit those photos. Another tip is to just make sure you've got a nice background. Even if it's just in your bedroom, just make sure it's tidy. Like my bedroom looks nice and clean right now, but you can't even see the absolute mess that's on the floor in front of me, but you wouldn't know that because all you can see is what's behind me. So just make sure whatever's in the frame looks nice. I always love being on holiday because I feel like you get so much nicer photos, you get such nice backgrounds, whereas obviously we're in isolation right now. So if you are taking photos in your bedroom, just make sure that your bedroom's tidy. So I'm going to show you how I edit 3 different photos. Some of them are a little bit more simple and some of them take more to edit, if that makes sense. So some of them I'll just put a filter on and it'll look nice, whereas others I'll do a few different steps to make it look how I want it to look. So I'll start off with the more simple one. So the first app I always use is Facetune, and I don't agree with obviously people editing the bodies to look completely different, but I do like to edit my pictures just a little bit just to make them look nicer. Obviously if you've got a spot you can edit over that, no one's gonna care. If you're not changing your appearance completely so you look like a completely different person, then I don't see anything wrong with it. So I always like to start with Facetune, and I'll take the smooth tool and just swing it out my body really. So as you can see there's a slider to adjust it and it doesn't really make that much of a difference. This picture's not too bad. Sometimes it depends on the lighting. If you're in bad lighting your skin can look a lot worse than obviously it does in real life, so that would take more editing, or just leave it as it is. If you're comfortable with that, it's completely up to you. So I like to smooth out my skin a little bit and then I take the details tool, and I've actually got sunglasses on in this picture so it's not going to make much of a difference, but I do always like to just do over like my eyebrows, my eyes, especially if I've got makeup on, earrings, jewellery. You can see my necklace is actually backwards there, but just to add a little bit more detail in. And I will, say if I take a picture in my bedroom like this one, which I'll insert now so you can see what I mean, I will use the whiten tool, the teeth whitening tool, to whiten the background a little bit just to brighten it up. So this is an extra step that I like to take on some photos. So I use an app called Snapseed and I use the healing tool, which as you can see, oh I've just done it there by accident. On the bikini top I must have spilled like some food or a drink or something, so you literally just zoom in, cover over it and it'll get rid of it. And it's just little stuff like that I think just makes the picture look nicer, especially if you're wearing a white dress and you go out, you spill a drink down it, just get rid of that. Like I'm the worst for wearing white, so this tool is an absolute lifesaver. You can also edit people out of the background, which I haven't ever done because I'm not that advanced at it, but I have seen people take a picture at like Buckingham Palace and they'll look like they're the only person there because they've managed to edit everybody else out, which props to you if you can do that, but for me that's as far as this goes. So save a copy of that. So another really good app to use is Lightroom, and it can seem a little bit overwhelming and scary at first because there's so many options, so many things you can do. But what I like to do, or what I did do when I first got this app, I'd take some pictures off Pinterest, put them into it and edit them to how I'd like them to be edited, just so you can get a bit of practice and see what kind of works for you. So this is really good because if you click on colour and mix at the top, you can choose the individual colours in the picture. So if I choose green, obviously if I up the saturation you can see it, that really affects my bikini. We can make the luminance higher so it goes to more of like a neon green colour. You can also edit, if I take this colour, obviously that really edits the sea, and the sea was amazing. I'll insert a video so you can see what it looked like in real life. But in this picture, I think because I'm stood in the shade, it just looks a lot darker. So a good tip with editing the sea or like a pool if you're on holiday, if you up the luminance, it just makes it, you can see, just makes the water look a lot clearer. This is just a personal preference, but because I've got blonde hair, I like to go on the yellow and make the hue warmer and up the luminance, which you can't really tell on this picture. I'll show you in a different one. It just makes your hair look not yellow. It basically takes out the yellow tones, so it does look a lot nicer. Another tip as well, if you go into the orange, you can up the saturation, and obviously you can see that ups your tan. So if you've got a suntan on your holiday and it's just not showing through on the pictures, up your saturation on the orange. You can also take down the luminance, which if I take it down loads, you can obviously see that's way too much, but it does just darken your skin a little bit. So you can already see what a difference from like the before and the after. It's just slight differences, but to me it just looks so much better. So I'm going to save that, and then the last app I use, or it's between two, so I either use the app Colortone or the VSCO app. So Colortone I have two favourite filters and VSCO I have one. So I basically use all three of these filters and then just see which one I prefer. I used to just find it really hard using one filter for every picture because sometimes it just doesn't look right with the picture. It depends where you are, what you're doing. So having three to choose between, I always find one that suits the picture, and I find it kind of keeps my feed looking together, more of an aesthetic, because they all have the same kind of tones. So that's a good tip as well. So the Colortone app is free. You do get a lot of free filters, but you do have to pay for some of them, but I just use the free ones. So I like to choose either between the Maldives filter or the Uluwatu filter. So the Maldives one, you can see, really accentuates the tan, and the Uluwatu one, it just kind of brightens everything up. And then onto VSCO, my favourite app on this is So my favourite filter on this one is the Dog 3 filter, which is more of like a pinky toned filter. It kind of knocks all the coolness out and makes it a lot warmer, which is great for holiday photos as well. So now we've got these three photos to choose between, and obviously they are all slightly different, but you can just choose which filter you prefer. I think I prefer the Dog 3 filter, so then I'll take it into Instagram. And the last thing I do before posting is I'll just up the sharpness, because I find when you post a picture onto Instagram, for some reason it just makes it worse quality. So I'll up the sharpness, maybe a little bit more, and maybe up the brightness a little bit as well. And that's the finished picture. So as I mentioned before, if you do take a picture that isn't the best lighting, it's always easy to edit a picture that's a lot darker to make it brighter, especially in Lightroom. So this picture was taken on holiday last year, and you can see there's a lot of shadows on me. The picture's just quite dark and contrasty, which is not how I like to post my pictures. So I've already taken it through Facetune and edited it that way. So the first thing I'm going to do is go into Light and up the shadows, because if I increase those, you can see it just brightens the picture up so much. But one rule I will say, as you up the shadows, up the contrast as well, because if you don't up the contrast, it can make it look quite faded and washed out. So I'll just up the contrast a little bit as well. And then we'll go back into colours. So obviously want to make that pool look a lot nicer. To be fair, it already looks quite nice. I will just bring up the luminance on the orange as well, just to kind of brighten up myself. And then yellows, so if I take the hue more towards the orange side and up the luminance, and you can see the difference that's made already. And do the same thing again, so add all three of the filters and then see which one I prefer. I'll sometimes do a double filter, which obviously seems very extra, but if I add the Uluwatu photo that we've done and then add Dog 3, Just adding a hint of the pink I just think makes it look so much nicer. So another tip as well, because this photo's not the best quality, I don't know if you can see, it's just not as sharp as I'd like it to be. So I will take the grain on VSCO and add that. So this kind of gives the effect of it being like a Polaroid picture or a film photo, which sometimes I really like, and adding the grain to a bad quality photo can just make it seem like it's meant to look like that. You can't tell the difference. So you can see the before and the end result. So this last picture was taken on holiday and it was quite an overcast day, so I did actually have a suntan and it just doesn't look like it at all on this picture. So a little cheat you can do to give yourself a bit of a better tan is if you go onto the paint tool and the skin brush, if you take this darkest brown, so this seems extreme but the end result is not that extreme, I'll show you. Oh, I keep clicking that. So basically if you cover over your skin with this tool, obviously this looks ridiculous and I would not leave it like this. So you can see that looks ridiculous, it does not look natural at all, but even if you just turn it up a little bit, you can just see the difference it makes. It just makes you seem like you've got a better tan, which is good for me as well because I tend to burn more than go tan. We'll save that. So this is probably the most extra I've been in a picture before. If I open this up into Snapseed and we take the healing brush again. Oh. So you have to be careful with this healing brush because I've used it before on holiday. I think it was just a picture of me sat on like an outdoor chair and the chair had white cushions and I think there was a stain on one of them, so I just went to take the stain off the chair, and as I was scrolling back through trying to find pictures to show for this video, I saw that picture and you can see my toe, I think it's my toe, has been like moved across the picture because I must have accidentally knocked it. So I don't know if anyone noticed, maybe you did, but I didn't notice, I've only just noticed now. So you do have to be careful with this just because you don't want it to look crazy. So I didn't want these shoes in the background of my picture, which is of course extra. So if we just swipe over, once you zoom out you can't even tell, it just looks like the sand. Unless people are really eagle-eye zooming in on your photos, they're not going to be able to tell. So I just like to take those out because it does just look a little bit cleaner. The background looks a bit nicer, so I'm going to export that one. Lightroom again. So as you can see, it's not made too much of a difference, it's just kind of brightened it up a little bit, which is what I like. So I'm going to export that picture, apply the other filters. So this is how the Maldives filter looked and this is Uluwatu. So again with this one I think I'm going to add the Uluwatu filter and then the Dog 3 filter on top of that. And as you can see, this picture's quite it's not the best quality. I think it was a live picture and then I screenshot a like clip of the live filter, so it's not the best quality. So I'm going to add grain to this one as well, which maybe you don't like that effect of the grain, but I really like it. So you can see the before and the after. So another really good app for keeping a good theme, maintaining a theme, organising your photos is an app called which I've been using for so long now. So basically you can integrate your Instagram feed, which I can't do because I can't remember my Instagram password. I need to get that sorted out. And you basically add all the photos that you're wanting to post onto Instagram. Maybe you've got a few pictures whilst you're on holiday and you're not too sure which order to post them in. It gives you a preview of your feed and you can rearrange the pictures, which I'll show you when it loads. So one of my best tips on having a nice looking feed Mike Tyson. One of my best tips for making sure your feed looks cohesive and doesn't look too cluttered is don't put two pictures next to each other that are too similar. So if you've got two selfies and one like full body outfit picture, put the outfit picture in between the two selfies just to kind of break it up. So I do that vertical and horizontally as well, so don't have two selfies kind of on top of each other. I'd split them up, even if you just add some filler photos in between. So like here, a lot of the pictures are on a beach or in a pool, so they do have blue tones to them. So I just kind of try and break those up by separating them. So you can see there's kind of like a filler photo in between. So none of the blue tones are next to each other, but it still all kind of looks cohesive because there's a similar tone running throughout it. So I hope these tips did help. I hope they will make your Instagram feed look beautiful and aesthetic and very pleasing to look at. If you're not into editing Instagram photos, honestly it's not that deep. I just really enjoy doing it. So you might look at me and be like, oh my god, that is way too extra, that is so unnecessary, but I like to add filters onto my photos, so I think as long as you're not editing them to be too unrealistic. Obviously a bit of smoothing of the skin, everyone does it, and it doesn't change how people would see you in person really, unless it's really drastic. Like for me, you're not going to really notice if I've smoothed out my skin that much, whereas I see people post pictures on beaches and they completely edit in like a different sky or a different sunset, and I think that is wrong because it's just setting an unrealistic expectation. Or if you're editing your waist smaller or your bum bigger, just don't do it. It's fine to tweak your photos and edit them slightly, but not to the point where it just doesn't look like you anymore. So I hope you did enjoy this video. I hope you found it informative. If you did, oh god, I keep choking on my own words. If you did, please give it a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.